right, everybody. Thank you for jumping on with us for our Tri-State Trends podcast. I got my man Tyler Knox of FFL Apex, who's out there doing his thing, crushing it, and has made, the full transition. I mean, reluctantly maybe, but the full transition from in-home to telesales. Tyler, I want to get into that, man. How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. For those who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about you and kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah, so my name's Tyler Knox. I'm with FFL Apex and grew up in Texas, pretty much a native Texan my whole life. Went off, did the military thing for about 4 years. I needed to get out of my hometown. And when I was getting out of the military, my plan was to go to college, get a traditional job. So that all changed for me though. As I was getting out of the Coast Guard, I was kind of like there was a little bit of time before I went to school, about a 3 month period. And this was about 2 years ago. So I went, hit the field, and had extreme success for 3 months. I did really well, made more money than I've ever made in my entire life. And I was like, you know what? I probably should make this a career. So I went ahead. I finished out my degree, which took me about a year and a half, and that's brought me to where I am today. As far as doing this full time now, because I knew that was the ultimate goal. It's like as soon as I'm done with school, I'm going here full time.
Nice. I love it. Now, how'd you find us?
So I'm under Rob Richmond,
Right.
and I've known him he's been a friend of mine for probably 8 or 9 years. And so we were friends while I was in the military. And as I was getting out, he's like, hey man, why don't you come do this? I was like, you know what, I'll do that. So kind of
That's
already knew
awesome.
someone in the business, luckily, and then was able to smoothly transition into that.
That's fantastic. So you're in the field and you transition into telesales. How did that go? What was that like?
Yeah, so I was primarily doing mortgage protection in the field. That was my bread and butter and what I preferred. And when the Fed started increasing the interest rates, those kind of we weren't seeing as many of those mortgage protection leads. So it was a day when I was on the phones, and I've been on the phones for pretty much all day. I set 3 appointments, and I was like,
Mm.
okay, something's got to change here. And that was my indicator to go to telesales and go final expense. So yeah, I mean, it was really just a spur of the moment thing where I just made a decision, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go all in on this telesales thing and fully commit to it and pretend there's no other option. And so that's what I've been doing thus far.
It's funny when you say it like that. I'm going all in on this telesales thing and I'm going to commit like there's no other option. Isn't it funny what happens?
Yeah. Yeah. When you don't give yourself another out or something else, you just commit to it. I think, with the commitment, I think it makes you a lot more likely to stick with it and not be deterred by, objections or roadblocks, because there is no other option in my mind. Like, this is the only thing. I've got to do this. I've got to make it work. So I think that was the key difference maker for me in the telesales versus the in-home.
So the mindset shift.
Yes, definitely.
So did it start once you made the mindset set shift? Did it start easy, or was it still you still now had to push through some of the unknowns?
Yeah, definitely a lot of unknowns. So I fought it for the longest time, because in-home was what I was comfortable with, and I like that person-to-person connection. But I knew that I would never be able to really scale and reach the amount of people that I needed to reach or that I wanted to reach if I didn't go the telesales route. So I just made myself uncomfortable, forced myself to do it, and just accepted whatever results I got. Whether, if I didn't sell anything, I was okay with that. I knew that I was trying something new and it was going to take me a minute to learn that and how to navigate that. And sure enough, I've been able to stick with it and not be deterred by any of those things, right? Because I know I'm supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's okay
Right.
for me to feel uncomfortable. That's a natural thing in the process of growth. So, yeah, I just committed to that, and it's definitely worked out.
That's awesome. What were some of the things you had to learn on your during your curve? What were some things that you had to hurdle and some things that kept coming up that you had to make adjustments on?
I would say the biggest thing is probably just getting told no more often. Because when I'm going in home, you'll get your no's, but it's a lot easier to kind of set an appointment over the phone and then keep moving, because that's a 1 to 2 minute conversation versus a 15, 20 minute conversation as far as doing an application with them. So it was getting comfortable with being told no even more, which I was already comfortable with. And just realizing that like it doesn't, it really doesn't matter how many no's that you get. I'm just looking for the yeses. But that's the biggest thing. And obviously when somebody's on the phone with you, they can just hang up and click and the conversation can be over, even if you've
Mm.
done an entire presentation or what have you. So I've just learned a lot, not let that deter me at all because I'm only looking for the yes. I
Amen.
don't care about the no. The no is like I don't hear it, I move on. Next.
I
So
love it. Now, are you doing appointments or are you doing call to close?
I'm doing call to close primarily. So pretty much almost everything that I do is one call close. And then of course I follow up, with the folks that I need to follow up with. But yes, I don't call it to set appointments.
Love it. So let's talk about it. First off, how many leads are you typically getting a week? What's your schedule like? How many days are you working a week and the amount of appointments? Let's start
So
there.
yep. So I'm typically getting probably 120 leads a week. Um, my daily lead spend is usually around $250.
Okay.
And then as far as schedule, I'm normally in the office between 8 and 8:30, right in there. And I'm focused on dialing. In my mind, I'm focused solely on dialing until around noon, so midday. And then from that point, I'll take a lunch or whatever, take a breather from the phones, and then I'll get maybe go work out as well. And then I'll hit the phones again between, probably like 3 to 7 p.m. And my goal is 2 apps per day. Like I want to hit that really
Love.
no matter what. There's some days that it's not going to happen, but you know, obviously that is the goal. So I typically want to do between 5 and 10 presentations a day because I
Love
know
it.
that I can get my 1 or 2 apps from that. So I know that, out of the 10, 2 or 3 are going to be thinkers, 2 or 3 might not be able to afford it. And then, 1 or 2 people I might have to follow up with, and 1 or 2 of those are going to be sales. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Got it. Makes sense. I like those algorithms a lot. I mean, people like that might make people afraid or may make people nervous. But dude, what's the best part about it is you're like, hey, well, this is my reality. And by the way, inside this reality, I could do very well. So it's like that's all I've ever done with this business is I was cool with my reality. If someone had better ratios than me, congratulations. But what do I need to do for me to be successful, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of it, um, I think in order to be successful at this, you have to have a lot of self awareness and a lot of accountability. And what I mean by that is like if you're giving, there's different things, different metrics that you can look at to kind of determine what the problem is. So, if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get anyone to pick up the phone or I can't sell anything, but you've only made 50 calls for the entire day, well, it's probably that you need to make more phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've made 10 presentations and sold nothing, well, it's probably your presentation, right? So there's different things that you can look at in order to get you there. And so I just kind of make minor adjustments every day and look at that and say, okay, what do I need to change here? And then I make that fix. Or it might be one line in my script that I need to change that it could be my tonality. All those things play a critical role, I think, in getting that ultimate result of getting a sale or two per day or an app or two per day.
No doubt. So, what are you using for leads right now?
So right now I've got an ad campaign on Facebook that I've set up, and that's primarily what I'm using. And then I also supplement that with instance with beneficiaries. Those are my favorite, by far.
Love it. And are you dialing all over the country or are you dialing in certain regions?
All over the country. So I'm licensed in about 15 or 16 states. So I'm not just sticking to one state. I want to spread that net or cast my net as wide as I can to reach as many people as I can.
That's awesome. I love it. So now you're all set up. You got your algorithms. You're 120 leads a week. Your call to close. Your 5 to 10 presentations a day, 2 sales a day. Like this is. It takes a while to get here, but once you get here, how awesome does it feel?
That's fantastic.
It's predictable.
Yep, it is predictable. Yes. I think a lot of people are afraid to make the jump because they're worried about the predictability. It's an unknown like we were talking about earlier. But once you're able to get yourself to where you can give the amount of presentations that you need to and talk to enough people it does become known. I know that, if I make $200 per day, there's going to be one or two people in there that say yes. Even if I was terrible at it, even if I just fell on my face in every single presentation, there's going to be one or two yeses in there.
Right. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your elevator and how you get someone on the phone. What are you doing now to take control or to build rapport? I don't know what your initial thought process is. Is it awareness? Is it control? Is it rapport? What are you thinking? How are you getting up to get to a level playing field where you can start walking and not run?
So I would say it's all those things. Definitely want to be in control of the conversation and not forcefully, right? I'm not being
Yeah,
bossy or
100%.
anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they try to take me down a rabbit hole, it's my job to redirect to get them back on track. And then also the mentality of like, I'm in a position of authority here, right? So I don't let them walk all over me. I don't let them steer the entire conversation. Of course, I want to ask them questions on what's important to them. And because it is ultimately about them, I mean, always at the end of the day, but I want to help control the conversation and not get us off track. So like, I mean, do you want a role play or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I would call you and I'd say, hey, Mark, or I'd say, hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, perfect. Hey, I don't know if you got my text or not, but I was the guy that was supposed to get back with you about the final expense and burial plans. It was the one that you filled out. You put your date of birth as April 15th, 75. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, I just want to, can you grab a quick pen and paper? I want to give you all my info so you know that who you're working with.
Yeah.
I'll let them do that. I'll say, hey, my name's Tyler Knox. I give them my name. I give them my license number. I want you to have that, and that way you can feel comfortable about doing business with me, and you can verify my credentials in your state. You can go to the Department of Insurance and verify that, so you're working with a licensed professional. And then I'll confirm their information. Hey, it looks like for your date of birth, I've got this. For your address, I've got this. Hey, perfect. Hey, what were you looking for whenever you filled out this form? And they'll tell you, right? I want to make sure that
I love that
my
question.
burial's covered, etc. Yeah. So my process is basically like I want to tell them who I am. I want to confirm that they're who they are. Find out what's important to them, and then hey, are you looking for traditional burial? Are you thinking cremation? Hey, do you know what that costs in your state? Then I'll tell them about the costs, and it becomes an educational thing. And then I'll hit on the importance of that. Mark, I don't know if you've experienced this. I know I have in my own personal life, but whether somebody will pass away, either expectedly or unexpectedly, it could be a real mess if family has to come out of savings or set up a GoFundMe on Facebook or things like that. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And they'll tell you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And so did you say no?
Yeah, I said no.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, they'll tell you what their experience has been on that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll hit on the need, and then I'll just go over the options with them and they'll pick one.
That's great, man. I mean, again, someone's going to learn a lot from this because it's extremely refreshing. What we keep doing and what we've done over the past 12 months is we've ripped the confusion. Like, you got to this place of telesales from the field, almost from like a why not me, right? Right. If
Mm-hmm.
no one else was doing it, you wouldn't have been like, why not me? You would have been like, that's pretty bold. That's pretty daring. I mean, people are really doing that. But when everyone's doing it and having success, you go, wait. Why not me? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I smell good. Why not me? So that's what we've been doing here, Tyler. You've done another great job of helping us out with that. I appreciate you jumping on with us for our Tri-State Trends podcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing more big things out of you in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, bud. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Tri-State Trending with my boy, Tyler Knox. God bless. Thanks, Tyler.